Hi Stitchy friends, my name is Barb. I'm also Stitch Brat here on YouTube, Flosstube, and also over on Instagram if you want to follow me there. Today is Sunday, August 11th, 2024, and this is my Flosstube number 13. And what I'm going to show you today is my stitching progress from about, I think, mid-June through the end of July. I'm actually a little late doing this video. I'd planned to film last week and then, I don't know, life got in the way. So I'm somewhat late, but I'm going to basically just show you my progress through July because it's easier for me to do cutoffs kind of at the end of the month. So what I have to show you today is I have a segment finish, so that's a finish on my 1 month of my monthly SAL, my stitch along that I'm doing, and I try to get one of those finished every month. And then I have a big finish, which I'm very excited about and hope you will be too. And then I have about I guess 10 or so whips to show you, works in progress, or whips. That's actually fewer than what I normally have for that period of time. And I was actually, when I made my list, I was trying to think of why I had fewer than I normally do. But I actually think it's because of the big finish that I have. I mean, you know how that goes when you have something, if you do any large projects and you have something that you're trying to get finished up, you think you're getting, near the end and, only a few more hours, which ends up being a lot more than a few more hours, but you work maybe more on that one than anything else, or more on that one than what you'd planned to, or whatever, to get it done. So I think that's what the case was. I just devoted more time to the one that I actually finished, especially toward the last half of July. Actually, my goal was to finish, the one that I finished was by the end of July, but I think I actually went a couple days into August before it was officially done. But anyway, and then I'll probably talk about plans just a little bit, although I don't really have too much to say there because I haven't made any big any big plans. And then I thought for my teeny topic today, I want to talk about hoops for just a little bit, because I do use a hoop, and on Instagram in particular, I get asked all the time about whether I use a hoop and what kind of hoop I use, and why I would or wouldn't recommend a hoop and things like that. So I thought that was worthy of a couple of minutes of time at the end, and that's pretty much all I've got. So I think I'm going to start out with, I guess I'll start out with my big finish. I've got it on my board here. So here's my big finish. This is Southernland. I believe it's just called Southernland. I always call it Southernland Sampler, but I don't think that's right. Southernland by Owl Forest Embroidery. And it's done. I do not remember when I started this. It's been a long time, several years. I've worked on it obviously off and on. I have a lot of whips going, so they don't always get consistent work. But I'll bring it in closer in just a minute so you can see it. This I stitched on 32 count pure white linen, just white linen from Zweigart. Here's the bottom. And the threads I used are DMC threads, and I always call them the DMC alternative colors. And the reason that I call them that is because Owl Forest Embroidery makes their own threads, and they do variegated threads. And I've never tried them. They look beautiful. But in their patterns, in addition to the threads that they themselves produce, they give you an alternative colors for DMC. So these are just the DMC colors. And there's only 4 colors. There's 2 reds and there's 2 blues. And the colors in this I think are wonderful. And I've said this in the past. When I first started this sampler and I went to buy the DMC colors, I really, when you hold them in your hand just as skeins of thread, I was like, these reds don't go together. Like, how? This can't be right. And I was concerned because one of the reds is a very dark, I think that's maybe 817. And then the other red is like 351, I want to say. So 351 is like a coral red. And I thought, a dark red and a coral red don't seem to go together. But what happens in the piece really is that the dark red and the other colors bring out more of the pinkish aspects of 351, and they look great together. So I love this piece so much. And there's also, I noticed after I finished it, or as I was stitching it, I guess, there are just tons of motifs in this sampler that would be great for other things. This little square you could make it bigger or smaller or whatever for a needlebook. I mean, the moths or butterflies or dragonflies or whatever they are. There's this motif up here. And personally, I love like this panel, and I could see using that for something else. And of course, this panel is really pretty too. But anyway, I think I don't always save my patterns, but I think I'm going to save this pattern because I might use it again. So that's my big finish. Very excited about that. Like I said, it took me a long time. It took me a long time to do, probably longer than it should have. But anybody who has lots of whips, if you have over 5 whips, then you know that it can take a long time sometimes to finish things. Okay. So that's number 1. Oh, I probably messed up this mic again this time. I've got a new tripod I'm using today. My birthday was in July, and my older son, got me a fantastic tripod that I wanted for my iPad. And this is my first time actually filming a video with it. And it's wonderful in terms of holding my iPad, but it's a little bit, the distance is a little bit different for my microphone, and I'm getting a little bit, I should have left more cording for my microphone. I'll have to do that next time. Okay, so my segment finish and then my first whip. This is, I'll go ahead and put this on the board if I can. This is the Star Touched Meadow Sal, or Stitch Along, by Carolyn Manning. And so this is what I finished in July. This is the April block. It goes in monthly order. There's 1 block for each month. And then each month is associated with, the colors are associated with the flower from that month. So, or that, I don't know, that month is known for, I guess. And this is the daisy, excuse me. I'm going to get a sip of water here. April's flower is the daisy. Oh, I should have known that was going to happen. I should have clipped it on. April's flower is the daisy. Very pretty colors, as you can see. Now, at first glance, you may remember that March's colors, this was March's block up here, There's a lot of yellows and greens, and you might think, well, gosh, those look kind of similar. But when you really look at them up close, they're actually not very similar. First of all, the yellows and greens are different colors in the two blocks, which is subtle, but it's clear in person. But also the April block, because it's representing the daisy, has a lot of brown in it. That dark color is actually a 838, I think, DMC brown. And so this one has no browns in it at all. And this one has some blues in it and some other colors. So it's really pretty. I just love it. And so what I'm working on currently is this one, the May block, and that is Lily of the Valley, is the flower for that month. And this one does not photograph as well. And the reason for that is that the colors are very soft and subtle in the May block. And in fact, when I first started stitching it, excuse me, the block, I wasn't sure about the colors, and I was kind of like, how are these all, I don't know, are these going to look good together? And but as I've been stitching it, it is beautiful. The soft colors are so subtle, but she really hit the Lily of the Valley on the head too. I mean, the colors are just right. There's some blues in there and some aquas. There's a lot of white in the May block too. So I'll be working on white for a while. That's more the actual colors, but I just wanted you to be able to see it up close. And then here's the whole thing so far. And I gotta say, I really think this is starting to look kind of amazing. Like once you get a couple rows of blocks that are stacked on top of each other, like I have now on the top, I mean, like it just looks so good. I'm amazed. Like I'm just amazed at this piece. I just love it. And I love working on it too. I've said that before, but I do a lot of as you probably know, or will see anyway, I do a lot of her big shooting star designs, of which this is a miniature version. And I wasn't sure how I was going to like doing the mini version, but I love it. I love to work on it. So that's also my morning coffee project. I work on that every day to make sure I get my monthly block done. But that's my every morning with my cup of coffee in the morning. That's the project I work on. So some days it gets half an hour, and other days it gets an hour, depending on how much time I have and how long it takes me to drink my coffee. Sometimes I work on it. Very rarely I'll work on it in the evening or something, but that's if I'm behind on a block or something for some reason for that month and I just want to spend an hour and get caught up. Okay, so let's move on to, oops, I need that. My other whips. Okay, so this first one I do not have a picture of. I didn't put up a picture of the Star Touched Meadow Sal, but of what it's going to look like when it's finished. But I don't really have a picture that shows everything because obviously they're released month by month. So I think you get the idea with holding the whole thing up, what it's going to look like. So this next one I don't have a physical picture, so I will put a picture in here. This is Silhouette Heart by Charting Creations, and this was a free pattern on their website. I believe if you bought a pattern, you got this free. I'm not sure if it's still on their website or if it's available for purchase, but it's a great pattern. I love heart designs. They're one of my favorite things to stitch, and I've stitched many hearts. So this was right up my alley. And I started this, I believe, on Valentine's Day of this year with my friend Carla, Stitch Me Sane. And here it is. Here's where I am. There's the fabric is it's prettier than what it's showing up. It's showing up as a purple, and it is a purple, but it's really, I don't know, it's hard to photograph these wonderful hand-dyed fabrics. I mean, sometimes they don't come out as, they're just not as pretty as they show up in person. So I couldn't figure out why this looks so straight up and down, and I'm like, it doesn't look like a heart shape, but I think it's because there's going to be more stitching that goes out here. Once I actually looked at the pattern, I was like, oh yeah, that's why. So I'm using DMC 333, which is a really nice kind of robust purple. And the fabric is 32 count linen from Bestitch Me. And the color is called Nightshade. Here's the Nightshade. I'm in Brandy's Fabric Club, and the fabric, if you've ever bought anything from her, it comes with these little cards on it, which is great. I can just tuck it in my project bag and so I don't forget. So obviously this is a monochromatic design, really fun to stitch, really easy to stitch. I found that this is a good project for taking places because I only have to bring like one page of the pattern with me, and I only have one color of floss. So, and it's not huge, so it can be a great travel project. So I've been working on that one. Okay. My next work in progress is one of the shooting star designs from Carolyn Manning that I mentioned. And this one is called, which one do I have here? Grandma's Lilacs. So I will pop a picture in here of what this will look like when it's finished. And this one is also one that I believe that Carla Stitch Me Sane and I started together. If I remember right, we started on Mother's Day, not this year. I think it was in 2023, but I could be wrong about that. No, I think it was in 2023. I believe we started for Mother's Day, or right around Mother's Day. And we both love purples and greens, and the shooting star designs are my absolute favorite of all of the Carolyn Manning designs. And you'll see I have several whips this month, and I have even more besides that. So here's Grandma's Lilacs. Here's where I am. I stitch all these on 32 count fabric over 2, and when you do that, they end up being about 11 inches square. So some people have asked me that on Instagram, so I thought I would just mention that. So I have a little extra fabric, but I'm planning on, when I get these finished, I have some done, some shooting star colorways done, and I'm doing more. So at some point they're all going to become pillows. So I wanted to leave a little bit of a border fabric because I'm not going to obviously have them right up close against the design. I want to leave a little bit of the background fabric. So this is on 32 count Lugana in the color, I believe it's lilac. And it's just all the DMC threads that are called for in the pattern. Oh, I take that back. I think I changed one thing. I believe that the white that this called for was B5200, and I'm not really sure now why I did this, but I changed that white to 3865. 3865 is my favorite DMC white, and for some reason I just decided I wanted my white for this not so bright. So that's the only change I made, and I almost never change a color in one of these shooting star patterns. So I'll bring it up close so you can see a little bit better. So I think maybe I've just started, well, I'm probably just into I probably got page 2 almost done, but I probably haven't started page 3 yet. well, not almost done, but you know, I'm into page 2. I probably don't have page 3 started yet. So that's where I am on that. So what I've been doing, since I have like maybe I think 8 shooting star whips, I try to pick 2 or 3 each month to focus on, and then a different 2 or 3 the next month, so that over a period of time they all get some work on them. But I like to work on the same couple for, you know, several weeks in a row. Okay, what do we have here? Oh, okay. This one I have not done a ton of work on, but I did a little bit on. This is from Modern Folk Embroidery. This is Lily Wheel, and I'll put a picture up here. And this is for a Sal, a stitch along. Oh, I believe it's the Jacob Sleeper Sal. And the, oh, wrong whip. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, now I can't think of the name of the floss tuber that, oh, it is here. Okay, I got the right one. I believe it's Cardamom Pins. And if I can, I will either put her name and the name of the Sal either below, or if I don't put it below, if I don't run it across the screen, it'll be in the drop-down box in the information. I try to put the Sals there anyway, the names of the stitch-alongs I'm working on. Okay, this is, okay, as I said, Lily Wheel and Modern Folk Embroidery. And so the idea behind the Jacob Sleeper Sal, she said, was that she had noticed that Jacob had a lot of his patterns were, you didn't see very much of them, especially some of the smaller ones. And she felt like there were all these sort of hidden treasure modern folk embroidery patterns out there, and you know, people should pull them out and stitch them, kind of thing. So when I saw that on her Flosstube, I was like, well, I have a pattern exactly like that. I think when I bought one of his bigger patterns one time that I was stitching, I happened to see Lily Wheel, and well, I know Carolyn of Evertotes was stitching Lily Wheel, and when I bought a different pattern from the Modern Folk Embroidery website, I happened to see Lily Wheel, and I was like, oh, that's that one that Carolyn from Evertotes is stitching. Hey, I'm just going to throw that in my cart. And I did, and I had it, and then I never did anything with it. So when this Sal came along, I was like, this is the perfect excuse to stitch, to start Lily Wheel. So here's where I am. So I have I have a good fourth of it done, and then the border, and I'm working on that bottom section there. So this is on a piece of 36 count clay, baked clay, linen is the color, and it's by Fox and Rabbit. And this was just a little scrap of linen that I had left over from, well, actually from another modern folk embroidery project. The Bernhard's Birds one, books. I don't know. There's books in the title too. I can't remember. But anyway, this was the offcut from that, and it turned out to be big enough to do a couple smalls on. So Jacob shows this, and most people stitch this, I think, with a dark color and then the little tiny motifs in like maybe a white or something like that. But I decided to do 2 kind of soft colors. So I'm doing obviously a blue and a green, and the main color is the blue, and then the accent color is the green. So it's really a different look than what Jacob shows or what you may have seen anybody else stitching. But I really like it. I think it's really coming out nicely. And the threads are, they're just 2 overdyed threads that I had in my stash, and that's one of the reasons I decided to use them for this, because they were kind of one-off ones that I think I got maybe in a thread club, or I don't know, maybe somebody sent to me or something. So it was kind of a great use for them for this because I can't get any more once those are gone. So it's good to do a small project with them. Okay, here's another one of the previously mentioned shooting star designs. Okay, this one is Beachcomer, and I think I only have a black and white picture of this, so I will put a picture in here of Beachcomer. And this one, I think, is one of my oldest shooting star designs that's still a whip. So I need to get cracking on this one. This should be either this one or one other one that I have should be my next. I should focus and should be my next shooting star finish. I try to get at least one of these done a year. I think last year I did 2, which is great. So I got to probably get cracking on one of these. But as you can see, I have a pretty good amount done. I mean, maybe I'm close to halfway. Obviously that's the top and the bottom, so you can see how big it's going to be. So here's where I am. And the colors in this are just beautiful. This is a very popular design of hers, colorway of this design, so you've probably seen other people stitching this. The popular thing to do seems to be to stitch it on 25 count Lugana 1/1. I'm sure it looks great that way, but like I said, my plan for all these that I'm doing is to make them into pillows or cushions. So I wanted mine bigger, and like I said, at this on 32 count over 2, they'll be about 11, I think about 11 inches square. So I think it'll be perfect. So obviously there's the colors of the beach. There's aquas and blues and tans. The colors of the water and the sand. I mean, the colors in this are just, this is so calming to work on, like on a summer afternoon. It's just the best. And I believe the color, this again is 32 count Lugana, and I believe the color of that is light blue. And I believe it's Zweigart Lugana, although, yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Okay, hey, this one I've actually got a picture of. These days everything seems to be PDFs, so I never print the cover page because I don't really have a color printer at home, and so I end up having to put in a digital picture, which I don't mind, but this one I must have had this printed off somewhere. So this is Remember Me by Teresa Kogut, and that's what it'll look like when it's finished. I'm a member of Teresa's Patreon, and this came out in September 22. And this was one of those, this has only ever happened to me a couple times as long as I've been stitching, where I saw something, and the minute I saw it, I said, oh my gosh, I have to stitch that. And that's what happened when I saw this. And not only did I say that, but I immediately printed off the pattern. I downloaded the pattern, printed it off, and I looked in my stash to see if I had some fabric, which I did because it's not huge, and I found that I had most of the DMC colors, and I just got started stitching it like probably within hours of when I first saw it. And that's like, I mean, I never do that, so that ought to tell you how much I think of this pattern. I just love it. So don't ask me why it's not finished. Well, you can ask me why it's not finished, but here it is. Here's where I am. And as you can see, I actually have a good amount done. Obviously, the standout on this pattern is that floral border, which is fantastic. So I got a lot done. I've got a lot done on the floral border, and then I've got the outer border completed. I need to work on it more, as I do all my whips. But I love this so much. I'll just come in and you can see. So, I mean, kind of a hallmark of Teresa Kogut designs, if you've ever stitched anything that she's designed, is there's usually lots of solid stitching. there's either a house or a woman in a big dress, or there's something that's tons of solid stitching. And, so they're not generally quickie type patterns, is why I'm saying that. And in this pattern, as you saw from the cover page, it's both there's a house in it and there's this floral border, which all those flowers are solidly stitched. So that border is like no joke, but it's beautiful. Okay, so this is stitching. I'm stitching this on a piece of legacy linen, and it's, they have those weird counts. It's 37 count, and I forget the name again. Oh my gosh, I was going to write it down. It's bees something. Honey, it's not honeybee, I don't remember. But it has the word bee in it, B-E-E, and I forget exactly what it's called. But it's got a little bit of, it has like a little bit of pink tone to the background, and it's really quite pretty. So I'm stitching that with the called for DMC floss, over 2 on 37 count. And I've said this before on here, but if I had to do over again, I would stitch with 1 strand instead of 2, or I would go to a higher count of fabric so that the stitches were smaller, because it's just at that in between where it's too much. It's really too tight to do 2 strands, but that's what I started out with. And then, once I did some in 2 strands, I didn't want to change. And frankly, doing the border, that outer border, which was just a single line or whatever, was pretty easy. And it really wasn't that I didn't really notice how hard it was going to be to do the 2 strands until I started on some of those flowers. And by then I wasn't about to take all that out. So, I mean, it's definitely doable. It's a little bit slow going, maybe slower going than what I might, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My light fell down. Than what I might have expected. Okay, I have a picture of my next one too. Yay. Okay, so this is a kit. This is the only, I think this is the only kit I'm working on right now except for a Mill Hill. This is from Luca S, and this is called Roses. And as you can see, it's kind of a watercolor type design. And there's a companion kit to this. I think it's called Pink Roses or something like that. And it's pretty similar to this. You can tell it's by the same artist if you look at them side by side. And they'd be beautiful if you did them both. But I actually got this free from Luca S. They contacted me and asked me if I wanted to try one of their kits a year or so ago. And I mean, who would say no to that, right? So they let me pick out what I wanted too from their catalog, and then they sent it right to my house. So this is what I picked out. And I've shown this before on here, but since I happen to just have my threads here, their kits are very high quality, and I would recommend them even if you don't like kits. But the threads come, they're all on these things, and you can just use these as sort of thread drops or a thread card because they have these little holes punched here. So once if you've used a strand of thread or whatever, you can just put your extras here. And what I've found now that I've worked on this some is that you can actually use these exactly like thread drops. So what I mean by that is I can get in there with my needle with the way I've attached this, like you would to a thread drop, and I can just pull out 1 strand of the floss and the rest stays there. So these are these are great. Like I wish all manufacturers use that for their floss. Plus they use very high quality materials. These are Anchor flosses. And they use Weigart fabrics too. And they give you enough fabric, which you will see in a minute. That's the amazing thing, right? If you've ever done kits, they're always, the fabric seems to always be small. So here's where I am. And this is up and down. It's almost through the first page. And then side to side, I think I have maybe about, it goes about to where my finger is here. So I'm trying to find that right edge. I have a little bit more to go. And I will be finding that right edge very soon because I'm working on this as a current whip for August as well, because Carla and I, Stitch Me Sane, she's in Australia and I'm here in the US. And for the Olympics, instead of doing one of the other Olympic challenges that we saw on Instagram, we decided to have our own little side bets. And being that the Aussies and the US are both big presence in the pool, we bet on a couple of the swimming events, who would win the gold medal, whether it would be the US or Australia. And as it turned out, we bet on 2 races and she won one and I won one. So for the one I lost, she got to pick what whip I work on and I have to put in 1,000 stitches. And I did the same for her. So she picked this whip for me. So I am currently putting in my assigned 1,000 stitches to atone for the fact that the Aussies won the gold in one of the swimming events. So that was actually really fun. And we need to think ahead for the next time something, maybe we can do it for World Championships since there won't be Olympics again for 4 years. But anyway, since both the Australians and the US always have top teams in swimming, that'd be fun to do. But this is so beautiful, as you can see. And I love working on it. It's really fun to work on. It's almost full coverage, not quite. There's a tiny bit at the bottom of the pattern that isn't stitched, but it's basically full coverage. And it's the kind of full coverage that maybe I don't mind so much because it's mostly blocks of color, and then it does have confetti, but it's not huge amounts, and it's sort of here and there, so between those blocks of bigger blocks of color. So it's very satisfying and fun to stitch. And it's one that I can actually watch TV and stitch, which, it's not that I do have very complicated patterns that I can't do anything but hyper focus on my stitching, and that's fine. But it's always nice to find that one you thought maybe was more complicated turns out to be, not as complicated as you thought. Okay, so let me look at my time. So my next work in progress is another Carolyn Mannings Shooting Star. Surprise. This one is called Squash Blossom. And this is my most recent start. And I think I started this, I want to say this spring, but I don't actually remember the exact date. I do write them down in my calendar, but I don't really keep that calendar with me all the time. So, up here. So I'm not sure exactly when I started it, but I think it was in the spring. I should probably write that down for my next video so I remember. But here's where I am on this. And this, well, I should have this on the board because it would show the color of the fabric better. It's kind of shining. I'm getting transparency issue here. And I want you to see this fabric because it's really beautiful. Well, not only is it really beautiful, it's the perfect fabric for this design. It's perfect. So I bought this one shortly after she released it, and I just fell in love with the color palette. And they're kind of autumnal colors, but there's more bright oranges and yellows than in some of her other patterns that are sort of autumn-based colors. And I just love those bright oranges, and it's just a beautiful pattern. And when I went into my stash, I discovered I had this piece of Lugana already in there. And I believe it's called Amber Yellow. And I think I actually bought it for something else. I ordered it and it turned out to not be the right color. It was too, I mean, it was too, maybe too bright, I think, for what I was wanting. I mean, amber, I think I thought it would maybe be more gold or something, but it's not gold, as you can see. It's like a bright yellow and it has some orangey tones to it. So I was amazed. But as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this will be perfect for squash blossoms. So I didn't even have to buy fabric for it. I already had it. But again, it's 32 count Lugana and stitching 2/2. And there's a little bit of up close for you. I think I'm still on the first page on this one. Because as I said, this is my newest. I think this is my newest. Either this or Cherry Blossom is my newest Shooting Star start. Both I started this year. So love that one too. Oh, the colors in that are just beautiful. Okay. Oh. All right, here's a fan favorite. Okay, this is Long Dog Samplers, Act of God, and I'll put a picture in here. This is for a SAL, Stitch Along, started by my friend Gail, GW Stitchin' Depot. And the SAL is Act of God 2020. It's either Act of God 2024 SAL or I think it's Act of God SAL 2024. I always forget which order they go in. I'll try to run it across the screen if I can. If not, it'll be in the drop-down box. Whenever I show this on Instagram, it gets more comments and likes than anything else I ever post. It's really a beautiful project, and it's partly because, or maybe mostly because, of the combination of thread and fabric that I'm using, which, let me put this on the board too. Here we go. It doesn't quite fit, but I'm going to try to. So here we are. And this is really hard to show because, this is one of those fabrics that changes drastically when you bring it closer into the camera. It just completely washes out. But the color is really, this is Vintage Country Mocha linen, 40 count. And I think most of you have probably seen Vintage Country Mocha. Sorry, let me try to straighten it. Linen or other pieces, and you know what the color is. I mean, it's a printed fabric from Zweigart. It's one of their printed linens, and I've got the whole border done. It goes all the way down here, so it's bigger, somewhat bigger than my. But I'm doing it on 40 count over 2 with 1 strand of silk floss, and I will bring this in so you can see. Hopefully, you can see that. Maybe some of the details. It's a typical Long Dog sampler with all kinds of cute motifs and little animals, and there's some elephants in there and flowers, and I'm working on that big diamond right now. I'm working on the elements of that and trying to get that done. Got my needle minder on there from Stitch North. It's my favorite. I don't really use a lot of needle minders, but I love that one. And it's a great memento from that. So I'll show you it's always kind of hard to show this. Here's the floss. That's actually showing up really well. You can see it against the fabric. The floss is, as I said, it's silk, and it's from Silks for You. And the color is PR 181. They don't name their colors. They have numbers if you go to their website. So as far as I know, they still offer that color. And in fact, many people have messaged me that they bought some of that color because they wanted to do something with it after seeing how pretty it is in person or after seeing me that I was what I was stitching on and how pretty the color looked. So that one always gets lots of interest on Instagram. And I need to work on it more. Gail's on a mission. She wants to get hers done by her birthday. Oh, excuse me. My next one is stuck in there. Which is by next March. So she's trying to get hers done in a year. And if you've ever done a big long dog sampler, that's a lofty goal. I mean, that's not the only thing she works on. She doesn't have a ton of other whips, but she has some other things she's working on. So that is a big goal, but she has been keeping up. And I think her last picture she posted, she said she was, I believe, 40% done. So she's probably right on track. So good for her. I'm not right on track to finish in a year, so that will not be happening. But I love working on that. And whenever I see her post hers, I get all motivated to work on mine and I pull it out. But I do try to work on it as often as I can. That's one I don't put away and I try to work on every month. Okay, so lastly, I have a new start. And again, I don't have a picture, so I will put one here. This is another Carolyn Manning. This is called Susan. And I talked about this a little bit last month. I started a stitch along for this design. Carolyn designed this in memory of a close friend of hers that died of cancer, I believe in June or earlier this year. And so on her website, the design is a fundraiser for both the American Cancer Society and for Susan's family. And I don't know, something about this design really touched me and just why she designed it. And I decided to start a SAL. It's the CM Remembrance SAL, and I'll try to run across here. I'll also put it in the drop-down box. So I'm stitching this, and I'm encouraging people to buy the pattern as the fundraiser and then stitch it in memory of someone that they loved that died from cancer, or maybe is currently struggling with cancer, or someone who's survived cancer, in celebration of that, whatever your reason, or maybe just because you think the American Cancer Society is a good cause. That's a perfectly great reason to buy the pattern too. But we started the SAL on officially, I think, July 12th, but it doesn't matter. I mean, people are still joining, and there's no start date, real start date or end date. So, but here's where I am on mine. And typical me, I started with the border first. And from here, it almost looks done, doesn't it? But it's not. I have some of those each little border flowery thing has a yellow center, and then the green spots in the border have a pink center. So I'm working on the pink centers and the yellow centers. And I think I'm working along that bottom there, the side and the bottom. But then once those little bits are done, the whole border will be done. And then I can start on the inside. Oh, there's my fabric. That's better. So I am stitching this on 18 count Ada, and it's in the color, it's that Rustico, Rustico. And I decided to use this fabric because I had it in my stash and I had pulled out the colors. I had all the colors for this, or most of them, in my stash, and I pulled the threads and I started looking with fabrics that I already had in my stash to see if I had anything usable, and I just thought they went great with this particular color of Ada. So that's what I decided to use. So that's where I am on it. I don't have any particular amount. I try to get done, every week or anything. I just work on it when the mood moves me. But this is one I keep out, and I try to work on it like on a regular basis. I don't assign that one like a month or something. So I said I would talk about, that's all my whips. So I said I would talk about plans for just a minute. my only plan really for August is that I want to go back to what I was doing at the beginning of the year, which was I was choosing like a pool of whips that I would work on that month. And I had it sort of down to a science where I'd have a couple big projects, a couple shooting stars, like a small, I don't know, whatever. And I'm still following that, although maybe not quite as strictly as I did before. But I kind of got off just picking a pool of whips to work from in both, I think kind of June and July, or May and part of May too, because I don't know, I went to some retreats and then I was on vacation, and I always get all, I don't know, my stitching all gets always messed up on vacation because I don't know, there isn't much time usually to stitch actually on vacation. And then, I don't know, I just ended up working on whatever, just things all over the place. I couldn't decide what to work on. So so at the beginning of August, I went back and I got my whole list of whips out, and I picked, I think I picked like 10 or 11 that I'm going to focus on in August. So then in addition to those, I have the Star Touched Meadow Sal and Act of God and Susan that I work on and every month. I guess I'll just say it that way, that I work on every month. So about 13 things I'm gonna choose from. And it may be that I don't get to one or two of them because maybe the mood never moves me, but at least this way I have some every month in my plans that are some maybe I haven't worked on in a while, because when I see that list I tend to go, oh yeah, I forgot about that, or hey, I haven't worked on that one in a while. So that's my only real plan for August, and so far it's August 11th, and so far I've been doing okay with that. Okay, so I'm going to spend just a minute and I'm going to talk about hoops. People on Instagram ask me all the time, like whether I use a hoop, and I often photograph stuff with hoops, but you can't always tell that it's in a hoop or what kind of hoop I'm using. So I will start by saying I do use a hoop, I always have. I pretty much use the same size of hoop for everything except very tiny projects. So I use an 8-inch hoop for virtually everything I do. So if I have a big project, I just move my hoop around. If I have a small project, I actually prefer to have a small project on a big piece of fabric and still use the same size of hoop. I find it really hard to work on tiny hoops. And if I do, I get the kind that opens with a spring, because to me that's much easier to work on than, I don't know how people work on these little tiny hoops and you're bumping up against the side of it in the back. But anyway, I like my fabric very taut in general. I stitch with kind of a tight tension, and I like to have my fabric very, very tight across. In fact, the tighter the better. So this is gonna be kind of weird, but because I'm gonna show you what my favorite hoop is, but then I'm gonna explain to you why I don't actually use that hoop most of the time. So this is actually my favorite hoop. This is made by Susan Bates, and it's called the Susan Bates Hoopla, Hoop-LA, Hoopla. And you can get these on 123 Stitch, and I think Michael's has them, and Joann's has them, and probably other stores too. So it's just a plastic hoop with a screw at the top, but the center section, of course, comes apart. I'm not sure if I can show this very well on here. I don't know how to show this. It's got a little lip on it. There, you can see it. Okay, can you see that? So when you put your fabric in, and then you put the screw piece on top of it, the little lip stays outside of the hoop piece, the outer hoop piece with the screw on it. So what that does is it holds your fabric like a drum. I mean, you may have to pull it a little bit as you're doing your screw, but if you like a tight fabric, this will do it. And this comes in all different sizes, and it's super cheap because it's just a plastic hoop. So the question I always get about this is, well, gee, doesn't this damage your fabric? I don't know. I use this for years and years. All I can say is I've never had any issues with it. Um, I usually do wash my pieces when I'm done because I just feel like I wash clothes after I'm finished wearing them. Why wouldn't I wash something I've had in my hands for, 5 months or something? If it can be washed. I mean, sometimes you can't wash something that's done with overdyed flosses or something, but in general, I wash almost everything. So I don't know if my stitches get a little bit flattened in a hoop, they pop right up when you wash them. And in fact, that's another reason for washing because it makes your stitches look much better, in my opinion. So now I'm going to tell you why I don't use this much anymore. Although it's still my favorite hoop in terms of how tight it makes my fabric. I have arthritis in my hands, and screw hoops like this are very hard for my fingers. Um, it's just hard on my hands, on my fingers. And I found out they make a tool you can put on the end of the screw that helps you screw it. But what I use now instead are these hoops. And I think these are called like Flexi Hoops or something like that. But I first saw X-Stitch MD Shiloh use these. And she talked about them on one of her videos. And also my friend Carla uses these sometimes. And she also liked them. So what Shiloh said was that what she liked about them was, and I believe these were her exact words, they're so easy to pop on and off your fabric. And as somebody who struggles with a hoop with a screw, I thought, pop on and off fabric? Like, how is that even possible? So I went and bought one. And they have sort of a similar lip arrangement, there you can see it, to the Susan Bates one, where the hoop fits in that groove, the outer hoop. So that's what helps hold your fabric taut. And then this is like, I mean, you can't like stretch it with your hands, but it has as you can see, it's flexible, it's stretchy. So it stretches to go over the outer, or to go over the ring. So what the result is, this holds your fabric reasonably tight. It does not hold your fabric as tight as this, as you can get this. It does not hold the fabric as tight as I would prefer. I will just say that. But the trade-off is indeed exactly what Shiloh said, how easy these are to get on and off and move around your fabric. I no longer wait to move my hoop until I can hardly even get to whatever it is I'm stitching, which is what I used to do with my other one because, I hated, tightening and untightening the screw so much. I pop it off and I redo it, or if I got a little bit too close to the edge or whatever, no problem, pop it off and redo it. It takes 2 seconds. And these come in various sizes, and they also come in various shapes. I have some ovals that are wonderful. So these are, you can see they have kind of a wood grain pattern to them. And that's because people frame with these. I think that's what they're intended for, because they come with a little hanger thing. And it makes it easy to frame a piece of cross stitch in here. And frankly, I would do that too. I think they would look real cute in this. I have not used these for framing, but they work fantastic as regular hoops, even though that's maybe not what they were intended for. After I discovered that I liked these, I went on Amazon to see what they had, and I got a set of, I believe, oval ones on Amazon that have like 5 different oval sizes. And then I got a set of 3, I think it might be, they're a little bit different than 8 inches. Maybe they're like 7.5 or 8.5 instead of 8 exactly. But they're similar to the size of the Susan Bates one that I use. So they're approximately the same size. But they do have all different sizes. And I believe it's Michael's, sells, Anchor also makes ones that are Flexi Hoops. So if you want a name brand, I found, frankly, the no-name ones off Amazon to be great, because that's the first place I found them. But then I discovered Michael's had the Anchor ones, and I've bought a couple of those, and those are great too. So if you prefer to get the name brand ones, you can find them, at least some of the sizes, at Michael's. So that's my hoop story. But if you have any questions about hoops or what I use or whatever, feel free to put them in the comment or contact me on Instagram, and I will be happy to answer any questions. And I have just about hit the 1 hour mark, and I'm kind of surprised about that because I had fewer whips, but I guess I took it all up in talking anyway. So that's it for this month, and I know I say this, but I'm gonna really try hard next time to get my filming in right at the beginning of September so that I can cover all of August and then just move on. But one of my issues is that I'm almost never alone in my house, and I am one of those people that I just feel weird about filming when there's other people home. I don't know why. I mean, nobody bothers me or anything, but I don't know. I would just prefer to be by myself when I film. So most of the time I can't be, so I have to find sort of the right time to film, and often it's like a Sunday morning or something. So in any case, I will see you next month, and until I see you again, try to slow down and enjoy life and take everything, including life, one stitch at a time. So I'll see you next month. Bye.